HITLabs. HITLabs, HIT, it's Human Interface Technology, I do believe it stands for. HITLabs in Christchurch is part of a worldwide network of HITLabs. I think there's about 3 or 4 others around the world. They draw on expertise from all over the globe and bringing people into advanced bleeding edge technologies. We've got Raphael to come along tonight, and he's got some fairly interesting and some fairly bleeding edge technology to show you. I'm going to just duck away now and do all the plugs and stuff like that, so that he can actually show you exactly what they do down there in Christchurch. Raphael.
Okay, so I will mainly talk about interface tonight, so mainly how you can interact with your computer and everything's related about a better way to enhance communication with computers. So if we're looking about computers since, I will say, the beginning of the century, the interface was something like that. A large console and complex element to interact with it. If we're looking about today, everyone knows about the classic interface to interact with the computer, so mainly a mouse and a keyboard. If we're looking at the evolution of interface in the last 5 years, I will say, we can describe and see 2 main elements. The first one is collaboration, so mainly about your entertaining activity or work. You need to communicate and collaborate and cooperate. So related about interface, what is really new? Typically this kind of stuff, projection, laptop or video conferencing system, or more and more into the computer. And the second tendency, I will say, it's more related about mobile computing, what we call pervasive computing or ubiquitous computing, having access to any place, anytime, anywhere, of any kind of interaction, and also collaborate with it. So my lab is more interesting about the future of this interface. So the future can be like that. So these guys seem really happy, but I'm not personally convinced this interface will be the best one, or the interface will be more like this one. So if we're looking about the computer since the beginning and mainly the evolution, so you all know about this square evolution. So mainly the processing power really evolved since this, the first computer in the beginning of the century, but mainly the way also to interact completely changed. We passed from this level of operates, so give some order to the computer, to experience the computer, to naturally interact with it, with interface more and more close and more related about what you're using every day. So if we're looking about this interface, actually I didn't see so many people using this kind of interface, and the main question is why this type of interface is not actually available, why we're not using more complex interface all the day. One reason is more about the way the technology is actually common in society. So this is a so classic example talking about the iPod, because the iPod is kind of success product. We are really dealing what we call interaction design. So the main idea, maybe some of you really know this practice, I think it's used in different kind of context. So it's more related about not developing a technology and try to sell it, but experience it and iteratively conceive and define and design this device with the user. So more talking about design of user experience with the technology and all related about evaluation and usability and all this kind of things. So why is coming the HITLab? So just before explain more what we are doing as HITLab, I will just give you a brief introduction about HITLab. So this is a beautiful entry of the HITLab in at the University of Canterbury in a sunny day. So the HITLab is mainly a leading center for interaction design. There is mainly free purpose. So the lab has really a focus a bit different of traditional academics. So I don't know how many of you are more related about academic side, but sometimes for you academy is something we don't really use. It's nice result, but take some dust and you put that on the shelf and you forget it. The HITLab is really more focusing about close collaboration between research and teaching. So mainly one of the first ideas to provide multidisciplinary project-based learning environments. So not doing a fundamental research. We have some fundamental research at the lab, but also really doing more applied projects. The second point is really dealing with this research side. So create a center of excellence for human interface technology. And the last point is we can create and innovate on some different points, but the purpose is to make it available to people. And where the point is coming from about this close collaboration for industrial sites, so what we call more like transition the technology and promote the economic development, similar stuff. So the way we're doing this approach is mainly coming from this teaching, recruiting some students, having some international students coming from overseas, and also collaborate, doing some research, and with interesting would commercialize some product. So what is the HITLab, and mainly in numbers? So since mainly 4 years, the HITLab passed from 8 people to 55 actually. So a large increase about the staff members. So mainly because the lab are dealing more and more with different kind of projects and different type of area, and really evolving about interesting elements. So the lab also collaborates a lot with a large number of universities. So in New Zealand, in Australia, but also different universities in Europe, like in Austria, in Germany, or in England. On the other side, also collaborate with some industrial partners. So the lab is working based on what we call the consortium members. So some company can register and be part of the lab, so have access about less interesting technology, and also promote and create some different projects based on like governmental funding, like technique, and this kind of element, and also for some develop some interesting product. So more talking about the research side, so what the lab is actually doing. So we're talking about next generation of interface. So the lab focus on mainly 3 areas. So the first one is what we call augmented reality. So it's mainly my main interest inside this lab. So what is augmented reality? It's a kind of funny word. So the main idea is to enhance the reality. So like actually I'm talking to you, you can imagine in the future we can display some virtual element around and we can directly interact with that. So maybe for you it seems a bit magic, difficult to do, but it's quite simple. So the main component I will say about augmented reality, the idea is you can combine real and virtual, and you can also interact in real time, and everything is registered and free. So just someone can explain it for me.
This is Christchurch, New Zealand, an old world city bursting with new ideas. And the latest idea is a neat blending of reality and computer imaging that is going to revolutionise the way we see the world. Virtual reality was the big thing in the 90s, but the buzz at the moment is augmented reality, where the virtual world becomes part of your world. Does my head look big in this? To the naked eye, I'm standing with a cap on, with what HITLab call a marker. But in the realm of augmented reality, I become something altogether different.
And then move forward slightly. Actually, just cover the marker back up. Yeah, there we go. That's right.
Now, of course, this isn't entirely new. Hollywood has been mixing graphics and the real world for years in movies. The difference is, what used to take millions of dollars and months of work can now be done with a standard PC in seconds, and the applications are endless.
Oh, that rocks! Look at that!
So this is just one technology I think we were exploring. The next one is what we call tangible user interface. So this concept or idea, I think, has been introduced by Ishii. So the idea is like going far away from the keyboard on the mouse. You're using your keyboard and mouse every day for doing hundreds of activity. And his idea was, why not use more specific tools, design on more, providing more affordance to doing some specialized interactions. So for example, you can imagine this virtual map or virtual globe of the world, and you can use your mouse to rotate it, but why not using a physical sphere? You can naturally rotate and having a natural mapping between the virtual elements and the physical elements, so it's oriented about connecting the virtual world to the physical world and provide more what we call tangible interaction. So you can use interface in the foreground, so some elements you can manipulate and connect together. So by doing different gestures, I will show you after. Or more other interface we described in the background. So if you're looking at this kind of fan turning around, you can map any kind of physical movement to describe some elements. So for example, you can use this light over there, and you can change the intensity, for example, to describe the weather. So if it's raining, you can change the lighting in the dark, and if it's really sunny, you can change the light. So you can imagine have your light in your desktop, and the variation of the lighting will give you some feedback, so something more natural than having a small icon on your computer. So another interesting interface is what we call perceptual user interface. So for some people having a PlayStation at home, this is mainly what Sony tried to do with this HITLab camera. So the idea is not directly interact with the computer, but the computer look at you and can observe your movement, your gesture, and you can naturally interact after with some virtual elements. So talking more about the HITLab camera, actually Sony sell 1 million of camera in the world, so it's something was quite interesting to explore and to describe. So the idea of perceptual user interface is a combination between sensing element and understanding some other elements. So there is more the visual part, use the camera, the oral part using a microphone, or more complex or pure physics part, equip the user of different views and so on. So what Mark was more describing like something implicit than rather explicit interface. So there is all this free area, and the focus of the lab is trying to explore this different kind of type of approach and really evaluate everything with different users. But it's more focusing about the interaction, about intersection, about these different elements, and more talking about the collaborative aspects. So how we can use this technology to collaborate and create, and going further than having two people in front of the computer and just fighting to keep the mouse to show something to the other person. So this is mainly the focus of the lab. So what we're doing with this nice concept. So at first we need some tools to explore this different stuff. So the lab developed on mainly Mark when he was working in Washington. What they call this AR2Kit technology. So it's a library you can use and download on the internet. It's actually open source, and it's quite simple and quite efficient, and have been largely used by hundreds of projects, and maybe it's really well used. So what is AR2Kit? So it's a really simple library. So what you need is a HITLab camera, a laptop, and be lucky if the demo is running. And after, if you remember this girl, she was showing this kind of marker. And just with with your camera on a marker, you can create a simple augmented reality application. So this virtual cube, like she was explaining, it's augmented of the real world, so it's also in real time. You can move around and it's registered in 3D, so it's really taking apart three-dimensional rendering. So to create this application, it's really, really simple, and this laptop is not really performant. So what you can do after with this technology, you can create some interaction. So, for example, you can have two elements, and these kind of elements are really tangible. I mean, you can grasp it and you will more fix the cube than moving in the mouse. And what you can do, for example, if you move the two objects together, you can change their representation. So you can naturally go with more gesture interaction and use, for example, proximity interaction to interact with it. So based on this simple idea, so this toolkit you can going for experiencing with the user. So what we can do by just moving two elements together. So for example, we had a project so with an Australian company, kind of company association. So they had animation, 3D animation, and they were interested to do interactive application for the museum about that. So the main idea was transferring this media, just passive media, just rendering, to something more interactive. So we mainly use the same idea, this proximity interaction. So when, for example, you put the two objects close together, you can run, for example, an animation and provide an interface for people to experience it. So it's not my idea. Yeah. I love the chicken. And with this type of interaction, so we can already build some simple application on natural interaction, quite interactive for museum, but the interest is going to further and more interesting projects. So one interesting project the lab is working on since I think maybe 3 years or something like that. It's this idea of virtual book and magic book. So the idea of going from a real book to something we can call it augmented reality book. So you imagine the potential of this technology. You can have a real book and you can display some 3D virtual element on it, but you can also imagine to be immersed inside the book. So the main idea of this magic book was not just augmenting the virtual world, but going further, so you can have a storytelling, and you can tell that to your son or daughter, and you can imagine have a simple device and you can dive on it and experience this magic book concept. So like I was saying, everything is always related about user evaluation and experiencing. So one of the ideas was to create a real storytelling book and not just doing something on the academic side, but really exploring. So we collaborate with Galvin Bishop, who is actually an illustrator in New Zealand. So the idea was starting from one of his books. So you can see a picture in the middle. The book is named Giant Jimmy Jones, and creating a virtual version of the book. And a child or anyone can mainly experience this book with different interfaces. I have also a video about this.
Children who will be the first to benefit of organs over a patient's body. But it's children who will be the first to benefit.
Jimmy Jones was a giant. He lived in the mountains and slept in a valley for his bed. The clouds were his blankets, and the lake was his bath.
Now this one could put mum and dad out of the job of bedtime story reading. It's called an iMagic book, and as you turn each page, a new scene springs to life off the page in 3D. This one tells the tale of a friendly giant. The images leap off the page. This could be the biggest thing to happen to books since the invention of the printing press. The images I'm seeing through the goggles are triggered by markers on the book. Each time I turn the page, a new scene springs to life.
Or perhaps the tailors could sew him some giant woolen ones, suggested another villager.
Just as an object appears larger as it moves towards you, so does the virtual image. And you can move around it to view it from any angle.
Storytelling will never be the same again. This smart 3D technology should be available from around the year 2008. And not just books.
I'm not sure. Maybe Mark talk something. I don't really know. Or we get 20 people working with us. But a part of the technology is actually more evaluating. So from the idea to this first step, like I say, it's really iterative. It's always experiencing. So we run some workshop with some children, and one of the ideas was like creating simple version. So they took another storytelling book, and children have the time to experience and create simple model and just going more about this drawing stuff. So actually we are more in the next stage, and we are really experiencing and going more on the education side, on the learning side. So there is different related projects, like on the left, building a natural device you can use, because the other one was a bit bulky and more interactive. Also exploring with different kind of interface, and everything's bring to us more about redefine this notion of books. So not just not doing some demo on the side, but really exploiting this kind of area. So, for example, from this idea of having just some marker or just from one thing, the book, the idea is more like to mixing everything. So you can imagine you're still using the real content of the book, but you can also interact with it. So for example, you can start some events, and the ship can move, and I think it's difficult to hear, but there is 3D sound. So the function of the position of the ship in the page, the sound will be modulated, and also if you're going further or closer from the book, the sound will be modulated. So it's more like enhancing the reading experience, and it's not just about doing nice feature, but it's also about the possibility of the book. For example, this one is really more related about the coming of the settlers in New Zealand and the part of the Maori culture, and you can also experience some more historical elements. So for example, you can have different viewpoints, and you can just have some summation of different elements. And the book is not just more a support to read some element, but you also interact. For example, you can go from the book to another element and naturally interact with it. So everything is still working with this AR2Kit technology, and it's really cheaper, and it's quite easy to use. So we are still really related about the way you can naturally interact with this book. So this one was more one of the projects we are doing in the lab. So now there is another aspect, it's the mobile phone. So it's still doing augmented reality, but with a completely different support. So actually, all the new mobile phones are equipped with camera and processor. So the idea was at the beginning to do some simple graphics, and also see how we can transfer our technology to the mobile phone. So like everything's about arithmetic, and CPU power is really more difficult. And like I said, the interest of the lab was more about the collaborative interaction. So I bring the phone so you can try afterwards. So one student of the lab succeed to do augmented reality. So it's mainly the same. You have the marker, and you have the phone, and you can naturally visualize some 3D objects. So you can imagine in the future, you go to a meeting, and you can bring your phone, and you can show your 3D design model. So there is still a lot of research because the resolution of the phone is not so optimized on the field of view. And one of the projects was more, to study collaborative game. So it's an air tennis game, so you can also try afterwards. Sure stuff is working. So this game is one of the, I think it's the first augmented reality game on cell phone and the first collaborative one. So the user can be sit in front of the table and use the cell phone like an interface to see the element, but use also an interface to interact with the ball. So you need to move your phone, and there is some haptic feedback also. So it's funny haptic feedback on the cell phone. But anyway, so also everything was related about evaluation. So the lab conducts some evaluation about the possibility of the phones, the interest of having perhaps the haptic also feedback on different type of elements. So actually the project involved a bit further. Nokia was quite interesting about this type of project. AR interface, it's more perceptual interface. So we also explore doing for different kind of application and collaboration. So this project was more related about motion capture, so how you can naturally interact with the body with some virtual elements. So the idea was to use simple computer vision systems, so just a simple camera, a screen, and some physical handle. And like you can see, the guy in the right picture can naturally move on a virtual avatar. We move also matching his movements. Another interest was also interacting with large displays, so how you can naturally interact with some element, not using your mouse or your keyboard, but using your hand, and how you can take some element and move it in different positions. So also it was an applied project, was for the HITLab World Exposition. So using different type of screens. So the setup was this one. You have this 5 screen, and people can select some element and move them in the 3 cone. In the back. So the exhibition was related about. So the novelty was to having a multi-touch technology, because a lot of the screen or touch interface are just mono point and not multi-point, and also this one is not just point, but also can detect some areas, blob areas, so having a surface and having some confident value and doing some more interesting. Sorry, it's a bit short video. But what was really interesting is, I think, 1 million of users pass many through Akai exhibition, and it was a big success. Mark really like this picture because it shows you can have some nice interface and people can really naturally enjoy them for different applications. So the lab is also exploring other type of interface, everything's related about tabletop collaboration. You can have different screen, different interface, and you can have different kind of hybrid systems, so just naturally using standard technology like a laptop projector, and where you can couple this stuff together and make something more interactive, more natural, with more awareness, more contextual about the user, and just bring the next stage of traditional video conferencing elements. Another interest is not just doing AR, perceptual interface or tangible, but also we're working a bit about everything's related about virtual reality. So the lab just have this new type of research. So it's it's a free screen stereo projection system, so the interest is mainly to provide you a big field of view, so just going along the technology. So you can, there is a 6-degree of freedom tracking system, so you can move in front and you can detect any of your movements. So in fact, it's detecting the movement on different balls you can put on the person. It's using high-end graphics and software, and we have also a portable system. So the interest is not about the techno, but the benefit. So the main interest is to provide the high field of view, and for different type of application you really need it, and also it's more exploring natural interaction with it, so the movement of your head and movement of your hand, and also some applications. So more the really interest is this kind of application. So for architect, it's kind of really applied project and really interesting, more for medicine or for manipulating geospatial data. So I have also a video on the TV, so maybe some.
Researchers at Canterbury University have come up with a new way of looking at things. They've created the country's first 3D multi-screen and say it has huge potential for use in education, in medicine and architecture.
For architect Bill Gregory, this is a new perspective on his Wellington waterfront building.
This is our most recent model here.
And it's one he believes could be extremely useful for other architects and urban planners.
The ability to move around on a path inside the model, or even move at will, gives the group of people who are looking at it the ability to much more rapidly form an opinion about a proposal.
With some fancy software, glasses and joystick, Vision Space combines 3 surround screens to produce 3D images. Unfortunately, viewing the 3D screens through the lens really doesn't do justice to what the system can do. At the moment, I'm diving headfirst into someone's chest cavity. The feeling's really quite unnerving. Being surrounded by screens gives the viewer a totally immersive experience.
With this system, you can really feel like you're inside your data, inside the building, or inside the patient's body, or inside the molecule, or flying over New Zealand.
The HITLab team are still surveying the landscape for possible applications for the technology.
We're looking at architecture, we're looking at data visualization, environmental sciences, biomedical, molecular biology, a wide range of sciences where you want to view and interact with data in new ways.
The technology also has big potential for those who just want to have fun. Blair Norton, One News.
So this is just a small part of different projects on different areas we are actually exploring on, always focusing about interaction. So more going about, yeah, it's nice, but is it really useful? So there is some really like commercial project. So I don't really know so much about this part, but one project I've been mainly conducted by Trimble, and one of the ideas was more exploring this kind of mobile AR system. And what they did, and so there is actually a PhD student working on this part, and like I understand they want to release soonish an AR product for mainly doing surveying around. So he mainly worked during 3 years about exploring different elements, and they developed some first prototype, and I can understand HITLab mainly help this company to explore this area and also get some funding to really provide and have really a good product doing this kind of element. Another project I've been conduct, I think, yeah, in 2003, 2004. So it mainly was related about a product to enhance the low vision of people. So you have this interface. You put a book on the black base, and you can have a lens system will like augment the view on the screen. You can have some filtering and some zooming interface about this stuff. So the main idea was to improve it, and with some usability evaluation, completely redesign this product, and the product is actually selling in the market. There is other project, and more recently, so maybe you read about that, Right Hemisphere, just get a lot of fun to improve their software. So their software is drawing tools for developing computer graphics application, games, and all this type of application. And one of the ideas was to integrating AR in the creator. So in fact, we already did it some months ago. So just to provide a real tool for doing AR, so more to explore and naturally interact with some elements. So you can imagine create some application, you run your deep creator with the AR plugin, and you can visualize some elements. So mainly for doing presentation or having nice interface, people can manipulate it. So for example, a typical example I built with this plugin I designed. You can create a simple application, for example, to change the representation of the floor, and it's naturally integrated with the software. So it's just a nice feature, and it's really be a really interesting product. So to finish, there is also more the teaching part, and that was the base layer about the philosophy about the HITLab. So mainly at the HITLab, so like 10, we have actually 10 PhD, 8 master, and the lab is really multidisciplinary, like we were saying. So a large part comes from computer science, but also for mechanic, electro engineering, and also we have a new postdoc coming more from the psychology part, but also we're collaborating with fine art. So I did some project with some artists by exploring this kind of technology, and also multimedia or industrial design, more to create new product, like designing new shape of cell phone and this kind of also teaching. And we also we have some students coming from the lab have been graduates, but one other aspect of the lab is a lot of interns, so a lot of students coming from overseas, and really interesting about the lab, but also interesting about New Zealand, and it's a large interest. So to summarize, mainly the HITLab kind of center for interesting about interaction and interface research, and mainly the philosophy is bridge between academia and industry, and not focusing about traditional technology, but really more exploring the technology on the move, on the technology of the future, on this interaction design aspect always experiencing with the user. So the lab also interesting about doing more projects in research and different kind of collaboration and having some students. So I think it's mainly all. So if you have some question or anything.
Any questions, anyone? I'd like to thank Raphael for coming all this way up from Christchurch. Raphael said he's got the 2 mobile phones and the cards there to experience for yourself over a drink and whilst you're doing your networking after the official part, to have a go at maybe playing, is it the tennis game?
Yeah, I don't really know what's working, but I can try.
But anyway, we can we'll get to that after this last bit of the presentation, which once again I'll have to